are we? We are the Philippine Retailers Association, the pulse and voice of Philippine retail, recognized as a national organization of retailers and suppliers in the country. The PRA membership represents nearly 80% of the retail industry, which counts all major players like SM, Robinsons, Ayala Malls, Rustan's, Araneta Center, Bench, Mercury Drug, Pen Shop, Wilcon Depot, and more. So why join PRA? It is our goal to get your business in the right track, and to make this possible, the PRA offers exclusive privileges that will surely add value to your membership. PRA members in good standing can enjoy exclusive discounts for their music licensing under PhilSCAP, which is required by the law in compliance with the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. As the pulse and voice of retail, we represent your interests on issues confronting the industry, such as bills on the further liberalization of the retail trade, music copyright issue, contractualization, use of thermal POS printers, price tag law, among others. As a member, you can take advantage of special rates and discounts for various educational programs and projects we regularly conduct to help you advance and develop your skills and competencies and help your business grow. There are seminars, conferences, and expos, high-level and exclusive meetings, which will give you infinite opportunities for the growth and development of your business. As part of our commitment to also help retailers in the regions have access to our educational programs, we conduct regional roadshows all over the country. The PRA also conducts a 2-day career expo, which seeks to generate continuous source of qualified candidates for various levels and positions in the retail business. It is strategically held in malls to help generate increased foot traffic and correspondingly help increase sales for the retailers. PRA members enjoy exclusive privileges through the PRA BizCard, a unique program which offers members exclusive discounts, special offers, and other offerings from associate members and other suppliers. At the same time, it also allows a business-to-business transaction between regular and associate members, which is mutually beneficial for both parties, where trust and loyalty can be established. And since we want to add more value to your membership, we are offering the PRA Premier Members Card, a rewards program to serve and incentivize all members who are actively participating in PRA events and programs. We encourage and recognize Filipino retailers who have epitomized the model of success in terms of growth and good ethical best practices through the Outstanding Filipino Retailers and Shopping Center of the Year Awards, or OFRC. To support members in their employee recognition programs, the PRA spearheaded the Retail Employees Day program for the Philippines, which is celebrated every December 12. With the support of all members of the PRA, we recognize and celebrate retail employees for their role in the retail business. You have exclusive access to information and publications for industry development available in the PRA library. Through your membership in the PRA, we can help grow your network and access to local international networks through our affiliations with large influential business organizations locally and globally, like the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, the Federation of Asia-Pacific Retailers Association, the Federation of International Retail Associations, and the National Retail Federation, the world's largest retail organization. Such networks provide unlimited benefits of being connected to the local and global world of business and retail. So, who can be a member? All retailers in all formats, shopping centers, as well as suppliers of products and services to the retail industry are encouraged to join and be a part of the PRA community. How to become a PRA member? We have 3 types of membership to cater to your needs. There's a regular membership for those who are directly involved in the retail business. Associate membership for corporations or entities engaged in the business of supplying products or services to retailers. And chapter members who are any organized group of retailers doing business in the Philippines. Being a member of the PRA will give your company endless possibilities and opportunities to give your company what it needs to grow, expand, prosper, and become globally competitive. Because at PRA, our only business is helping your business grow.
Today, welcome back to Let's Talk Retail of the PRA, our digital initiative. We are already on our 12th episode, and we thank you for supporting us. This is CJ Hasena, and we bring to you stories of resilience, bounce back, creativity. Very inspiring and very insightful. So we continue today with another story with another guest. Okay, he's been in the business for a long time. He started off in marketing in fast-moving consumer goods, and now he's into retail. And he is in a business that was working very well during the pandemic, very relevant to us in the pandemic. So, just a little housekeeping. If you want to continue seeing Let's Talk Retail, the PRA, please click the subscribe button in our YouTube channel so you can get your notice on a regular basis. Okay, let's start this. Um, Today, our guest has 28 years of experience. He is now the Chief Operating Officer of Alfamart Trading Philippines. This is a joint venture between Alfamart of Indonesia and SM Retail. Now, prior to that, he had very strong, fast-moving consumer goods experience. He was with Jollibee as Vice President for Marketing. He was the Scotch portfolio brand director of Diageo. He was also in Procter and Gamble. On a personal note, we were together in one of our previous lives, which was this Metro Retail Group. Without further ado, let me bring in my friend and former colleague, Mr. Harvey Ong.
Hey CJ,
Hi, Harvey. How are you?
it's great to see you again after so many.
Likewise. It's
It's
great to
like
see
it's
you.
been years, no?
I know it's been virtual, IG, Viber, but hopefully one of these days we can go to Serendra and eat, right?
CJ, I've been watching some of the episodes of PRA, and I never realized you were such a good interviewer.
It all depends on who we're talking to. It's a learning experience for all of us. And so we thank you today for joining us. All right. Harvey, tell us about your journey. Tell us about your journey from Procter and Gamble to Jollibee, Diageo, to Metro Retail where we're together, and now
Right, right. Nako, mahabang-habang usapan to.
your key learnings for each of this.
Why, pagkaya na nasabi mo kanina, introduction, thank you for that. I started my career in 1992. I joined Procter& and Gamble in the Philippines, working out as a brand assistant. And I was very lucky. After 7 years, in 1999, I had the great fortune of being sent abroad on an expatriate assignment. No, so I moved to Malaysia, where I worked on the Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei markets, and had a great time for 2 years in Malaysia. And from there, I moved to the regional office in Singapore, where I worked for 6 years as a regional marketing director for the ASEAN, Australia, and India region. From there, I really got burnout and I was ready for a new challenge. And I moved to an altogether new industry. So from selling laundry detergents and shampoo, I moved to the booze industry. I went to the liquor industry, and I joined Diageo. Diageo is a British company. It's the world's biggest spirits company, known for John Walker, Baileys, Smirnoff, Guinness. You drink all of these, CJ. You should know them. And the highlight of that, after a year in the regional office in Singapore, was spending 3 years for Diageo working in Taiwan. Those were some of the best years of my life. And after 3 years and by now 5 children, we decided after 11 years away from the Philippines, it was time to come back. And so we did. And I came back in 2009, and I joined altogether different industry. I joined Fonterra. It's a New Zealand company. It's the world's biggest dairy
Ah,
company.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and so I spent a few years selling Anchor and Lean. Had a great time, and then an opportunity of a lifetime to work for an iconic brand, uh, different industry again. I moved to Jollibee, so from selling milk to milkshake. Yeah, and yeah, I spent a few years in Jollibee, and then I was considering an offer to join another FMCG company, a global food and beverage company this time. And right before I signed the offer sheet, I met a guy by the name of Mr. Arthur
Oh
Emmanuel,
yes, our ex-boss.
38 years with Walmart, and he encouraged me. Actually, he bugged me to try out retail, and I said, why not? I've done a lot of FMCG marketing stuff in my career, so sabi ko, there's no harm in trying. And so the rest is history. That's how we briefly became colleagues at Metro Retail. Eventually, in 2016, I was invited to check out Alfamart. I can never forget my interview with Miss Tessie Coson, and she asked my opinion. What do you think about working on Alfamart? And I had no idea what Alfamart was, CJ. And I had to be honest. Said, can you explain, ma'am, what Alfamart is? At the time of the interview, Alfamart was less than 150, probably 150 stores, most of them in Cavite, which is a place I rarely frequented. So I really had no clue what Alfamart was. No? But over the next couple of weeks, I spoke with the stakeholders in Indonesia and the other stakeholders in the Philippines, got a good picture of what Alfamart is and what the ambitions were. And I said, as a brand builder, most of my life I've spent working on established brands, but this was a good challenge to build a brand from almost from scratch. So the rest is history, and I've been here for more than 4 years now.
Physically 4 years. Emotionally, how many years?
More than that.
No, I always ask the journey question because I want our listeners and our viewers to gain insights on what it takes to get to where our guest is. So from all these companies, what were the great learnings you had? What were the key learnings?
Dami CJ.
Give me your
If I
top
were
five.
to top five, wow. Siguro, I'm gonna start with Procter and Gamble because that's the place where I spent, more than 13 years, no, my formative years, if you will. So, learning number one, as brand managers, the way we were measured based on how we built the business, but also how we built the brand and how we built the organization. And that learning really served me well here in Alphamart. Of course, building the business is important. You need the profit to continue expanding to pay for the bills, but you also need to think about the brand reputation. The reputation not just to your customers, not just to your employees, but also to other stakeholders like the community, the business partners, suppliers, to the government. No, and lastly, building the organization as brand managers in P&G, you had to make sure that you are able to train the next generation of ABMs. If not, you will not get promoted. And that has served me well because, like right now in my role, a lot of my time is really spent on thinking of how we can strengthen the organization for the future. So the second learning in P&G is really about the basics of marketing, the four important questions: why, which is the brand purpose, the brand mission; who would be your target audience; what is your point of differentiation and competitive advantage; and once you have the why, the who, and the what, then it's how do you communicate to your target in the most effective and efficient manner. So that's my second lesson. Wow, this is so hard. Just five. When I moved to Diageo, I thought that was so different from P&G, which is a highly structured company. So many rules, no? And Diageo at that time it was so free flowing, and that was their strength. They moved very very fast. Decisions went
Okay.
by very fast, and that's why one of the corporate culture that they had there was amazing relationships. So they encourage us to form amazing relationships so that with strong trust and respect, we do not need formal processes or ad hoc meetings. We can decide very, very fast on the principle of trust and respect. So that's number three. Number four, I guess, would be in Jollibee. I think in Jollibee, of course, we all know Jollibee as a iconic brand, and you all have tasted the world famous chicken joy, so you all know how good tasting the food is. But I think the hidden secret, CJ, of what makes Jollibee successful is HR, in particular the people in Jollibee. They love working for the brand. And I think in retail, if your employees cannot love your brand, your customers will never be able to love your brand. So I think that's the fourth learning for me. And I guess, lastly, I think fifth would be always reserved for Alfamart. I can't think of just one learning, but I think in this year during the pandemic, what really saved Alfamart this year in the pandemic is people, our people. And I think the lesson I learned from here is if you treat your people well during good times, in bad times, they will take care of you.
Very nice. I like the theme of taking care of your people, working with your people. And we'll go back to that later because I want you to discuss that some more. And I remember our little discussion prior to this meeting regarding malasakit. Let's go there later.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Congratulations. You got 1,000 stores in less than 4 years, correct?
6 years.
6 years. That's like how many? How many stores a month? That's a fast pace, isn't it?
Quite.
So,
Yes, CJ.
what's the secret of growing so fast?
Well, I think first of all, I think we were blessed. Let's face it. I think there's no such thing. And I can't say we were at the right place at the right time this year because there's nothing right about this pandemic. But our business model, selling essentials in the most convenient way and accessible way possible, it remained relevant, if not even more relevant during this pandemic. So number one, I think we had a sound business model which remained relevant during this time of pandemic. The second is, I really have to thank our investors, our stakeholders for continuing to give us the much needed capital to continue with our expansion because they could have easily said stop it and then we would have to stop our expansion. So I thank them for the trust and I hope to repay them in the years to come. The third would be, CJ, I'm very, very proud of my leadership team with our Mancom. When the pandemic started, we had 815 stores, 815.
Yes.
And we were at a crossroad, and I asked my team, I wanted this to be a team decision. I wanted to continue, but I did not want to make this decision alone. When you read the news, everyone was saying, hold expansion, cash is
That's right.
king.
That's right.
Everyone was saying that, right? And I didn't want to be the only guy saying go, go, go. And then when things go bad, people would say, we felt that was the wrong move. So I wanted to hear their opinion. And it felt good because, some of the people in my mancom said, let's continue to do it. Kasi if we stop, kawawa the landlord, the new landlords, we won't be able to pay them rent. Kawawa the contractor, because then they won't have any jobs. Some of them said, let's continue it for the customers because the communities need us. They
Right.
need a place they can buy the stuff during this pandemic. And HR also said, let's continue because now it's a good time to create jobs. And I personally wanted to continue because I felt during a time of nothing but bad news, it would be good to have some good news to inspire and build confidence kahit na to a few people man lang when they hear about the Alfamart story. So it was a unanimous decision. All 13 of my mancom said, let's move. And so we did. So that's the third reason. But the fourth, I think, the reason why we got here, and I talked about this guy with you in private. We expanded because of people like Michael. For the listeners' sake, Michael was the store associate that I met on March 17, or was it 16, on the first day of the ECQ. I checked one of our stores, And on the way back to the office, as I was walking the street, I saw this guy literally running towards the direction of the store. He was sweaty. He was wearing the Alfamart uniform, and I stopped him, introduced myself, asked for his name, Michael, and I asked him why he was running, and he said he was late. He was so worried he was late. He was apologetic, and I asked him where he came from, and he had no means of going to the office. So he walked from his house in Las Piñas all the way to Pasay. He hitched in the back of a truck. All told, more than 2 hours, almost 3 hours journey for Michael just to be able to reach his store in Pasay. And I asked Michael, why didn't you just file a leave today, right? And to give you time to think of how to come to work. And he said, I can't. The team needs me. And I felt really touched when I heard that. And when I heard that from Michael, I said, and there were other good feel good stories, not just Michael. These are the people, and they're the reason why Alphamart remained open. Most of our stores, if not all of our stores, during the height of the pandemic. This is the reason why we found ways to get our stores up and running and find ways to open new ones. So it's because of Michael and
Okay,
people
let's
like him.
talk about Michael and people like it. In the core of Michael, what is it? What was pushing or burning in the heart of Michael?
I can't talk for Michael, but
But
I would think for every Michael that
yes,
we would have a manager that he was reporting to that brought out the best in Michael. He probably had a manager who treated him well, and usually when people stay or people leave, it's not the company. It's really the immediate manager. So we were able to do this. We were able to create a healthy culture because we had people managers who really looked after their people. And that's what I mentioned a while ago. The learning for me is if you treat your people well during good times, in bad times, they will be there for you. And this was the case for people like Michael.
how about the concept of malasakit? Because when you told me the story, the first thing that entered my mind is malasakit.
Correct, correct. Michael's story is just one story of the malasakit during this pandemic. You know what they say, CJ, right? A crisis brings out the best and, also the worst in
Agree.
people. And we saw so many good examples of the best. I don't want to talk about the worst. Some of the best would include, not just Michael, but, some of our customers. They would actually leave food for our crew, and they would have these thank you messages. My team would take pictures and send them to me, and these were really handwritten notes thanking the crew for coming in despite all the risks first and serving the community. Right after the incident with Michael, I asked our HR to review the database of people that we have and cross-reference it with all the stores that we had to make sure that our crew are assigned to the closest stores so that they can just walk to work.
Correct.
And right now, I think we have 80% of our employees, close to 80%, who can just walk to work. The rest probably take a bike, as in bicicleta.
Yes.
And then this is a story of Mercedes. Mercedes, or Mercedes, she's, I don't know how she pronounced it. This is another song. Mercedes works in Laguna, and her house is so far. So we recommended she transfer to another store closer to her home. And we were surprised because she said no. And the reason for that is she had bonded with her store team, and she had bonded with her customers. So she said she would not move during this pandemic. And what did she do? She bought a bicicleta, and although she's in her late 20s, she learned how to ride a bike. And every day she rides her bike for 45 minutes one way. Why? Because of pamamalasakit to her customers, to her store team. So yeah, I mean, so many stories about pamamalasakit, CJ, and I think that speaks well of the Filipinos. I think that's how we survive this COVID. It's through our pamamalasakit.
Now, I have a challenging question. Can malasakit be taught or is it innate?
I think, well, I may be naive, but I think in general, I think it's both. I think all in general, I would like to think people are born good, but we grow up with different role models and monkey see, monkey do, and it depends on the proper parenting and your role models as you grow up. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's you're born with pamamalasakit, but as a concept, if you are not exposed to it, it doesn't become uh, natural to you anymore over time. So I think it's both, TJ.
Okay, let's talk about the organization. Um, in no time in history, corporate history, that you have three generations together with you.
Correct.
You're a baby boomer, but of the younger side of the baby. You're at the cusp of the baby boomer. You have Gen Xers, okay? And you have millennials. And in some companies, the Gen Z. Now, how do you, as the leader of Alfamart, put together all these generations with different mindsets and still come up with such a powerful force to reckon with in the retail industry?
Right, right. Well, first of all, CJ, I would insist I am a Gen X and not a baby boomer.
Okay, Gen X. All right, sige. Gen X tayo.
Kapit, no? Kumapit.
I'm the baby boomer.
No, CJ, a lot of people, it's around 70-80% of our employees, as you would expect, would be millennials or Gen Z. They would be of the younger generation,
Yes.
right? And honestly, CJ, I think the onus is on us to adjust to them.
Okay.
I think every generation is the product of their time and a product of their parenting style.
Correct.
And these younger generations, they were raised differently, and they were exposed to, like the digital natives, no? They were exposed to these things earlier in life. And so I hear a lot of criticisms about these generations as them being entitled and not wanting to work as hard as the older generations. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're different from us. And I think the onus is on us to adjust to them so that we can get the most out of them. The younger generations are more informed than us. And I think this got to do with, the, uh, the exposure due to the internet when they have access to so much information, right? They are so smart. They are so agile. Uh, my children, they learn things, technology so fast. It takes me a long time to learn these things and keep up with them. Uh, and their purpose is important for them. CJ, we didn't talk much about purpose growing up. We talked about how much salary we were going to get.
Right.
We talked about how long it takes to get promoted. We talked about career path. We rarely had a lot of discussion with our bosses about company purpose, right? But that thing matters to them. I look up to this younger generation because I feel there is a stronger desire at a young age to make a difference, and that's something that wasn't it wasn't there with our generation. We said, let's grow first, let's get rich, take care
Right.
of our bills, then let's worry about saving the world.
Correct.
But these kids, they want to save the world now, and so I actually respect them very, very much. So I think, to your point, our company, I would say, would be around 2% baby boomers, Gen X. So maybe there's around five of us out of 8,000, and the rest of them would be millennials and Gen Z. And I think it's the onus on us to learn from them. Our generation, CJ, it's all about humility. When we were starting off in our careers, we had to learn from our elders, correct?
That's right.
As we end our careers, the onus is on us to learn from the youngsters. We will have to adjust to them. The pace of change is so fast. This is their world now. If we are to remain relevant in this corporate world, the onus is on us to learn from them and not the other way.
All I can say there is boom.
From the
It's
boomers.
very interesting because we have merchants, we have retailers who have their um, employee profile similar to that. A very small baby boomer, a little Gen Xers, and a lot of millennials. But how do you end up engaging them? So how do you engage the younger generation?
I, I, well, this happened more frequently before the pandemic, CJ. But
Yeah,
at minimum once a week, I would spend Thursday off together with another companion, head of our quality assurance team,
yeah,
and we would do random store visits. And these are unannounced. And these are unannounced because I wanted to see how the stores look like. Not him. And nobody knows our rota.
yeah.
And most of the time I come to the store, they don't even know who I am because I make sure there's no picture of me in the store. I don't want to be recognized and treated differently. And it would only be after a few minutes inspecting the store that I would introduce myself to the stores. And I think that's my way of engaging them. I don't go there para magsita. It's a teaching moment. And I try to balance it. I also tell them what the good points are. And I use that time also to get to know them, to understand their college background, yeah. So my way of engaging the employees is to really go and meet them and get to know them. Nowadays, because of the pandemic, I still do my catch-up sessions, but I ask HR to get random groups of people, and we do an ikapihan. Not more than 6 people at a time to give everyone a chance to talk. But I usually get people in the rank and file because I have a lot of face time already with the managers. So I try to get as much time with the rank and file and ask them about what they think about the future of the company is, and what they would want to make to their company.
You have 1,000 stores now. Have you visited all of them, or do you plan to visit all of them?
Absolutely not, CJ. No, no, no. We haven't. We haven't had a chance to go to all those stores, CJ. There are a few stores, especially in Nueva Ecija, some
Yeah.
stores down in Batangas and Laguna that I haven't been to. But yeah, I hope so someday when this pandemic is done. But there is something that we do every Christmas as a token, and we do this on the 23rd or 24th. And for that one day, I together with some of our mancom, we would go to one store for every province, and one store in NCR, and that's we call that the Project Three Kings. We go there with gifts, and the stores are randomly chosen. They have no clue. We just show up with their Santa hats. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about your Alfamart's expansion. So you hit 1,000 stores. Where else will you be expanding? Are you focusing just on Metro Manila and the nearby provinces, or are you thinking of going all the way to Visayas, Mindanao, and the northern Luzon areas?
Yeah, well, there are two parts to that question. First of all, what is logistically possible? If we go too far from our DCs, we have 4 DCs now, distribution centers. If you go too far, you won't be able to make money because you'll end up paying so much for logistical, right? There's the element also of how far can you go. We prefer to stay in the areas where we are right now because there's still so much potential, CJ. In Indonesia, Alfamart and its key competitor Indomart together have more than 32,000 Minimarts in Indonesia. So I think the potential in the Philippines easily would be maybe 15,000 Minimarts. And with Luzon representing 70% of the population. I think Luzon alone has the potential to host 10,000 mini marts. So yeah, I think one day we will go to the sites in Mindanao. But I think in the meantime, what is prudent is to saturate Luzon and maximize our presence here.
Now, are your stores all company owned, or are you franchising?
Oh, right now we are all 100% company.
All right.
Certainly, franchising is something we will get into at the right time. I've been asked that question before, and my opinion, having worked in Jollibee, and Jollibee,
Right.
as you know, is predominantly franchise owned. I think it's slightly different from Alfamart. I think once we go into franchising, a lot of the people we will be attracting are people who are retirees or Ws, because it's not going to be a huge investment like a Jollibee. And for these small investors, I want to make sure that the business model is sound, and I want to make sure the organization capability is there. And so I don't want to enter franchising prematurely, because I want to make sure the franchisees, there's no guarantee that they'll make money, but as much as possible, I want the chance of them making money to be very, very high. I think we're ready, CJ, but I don't know about the market condition, if this is the best time for the franchisees. So it's hopefully it'll be sooner than later.
I want to make a U-turn question.
Sure.
Super Minimart. Okay, we've seen your competitors, but you're the one that I saw, Super Minimart. So what's that? It's like a grocery on steroids? Is that
Yeah, well, CJ, we had to create a name for our format. We didn't have a benchmark here in the company, in the country. And so we stumbled upon Super Mini Mart as the best term to communicate what we are. We are not a convenience store. We look like a convenience store
right?
from the outside, but we it's a totally different business model. It's a totally different game. They have a different target, and they have a different assortment. We are closer to a grocery than we are to a convenience store. And so we stumbled upon the name Super Mini Mart because in terms of the assortment, it's we offer everything that you need. In terms of pricing, it's more affordable than what you expect, and in terms of accessibility, you can just walk. So it addresses all your needs, and therefore we are super.
Okay, I'm gonna talk to you about in a few seconds about what's inside an Alfamart. Let's talk about the pandemic. It's December. We've been into this pandemic for almost 10 months already. So how did the pandemic affect you personally? And then let's talk about how it affected Alfamart. So let's
Right.
start off with you.
Well, I guess the biggest impact on me personally was not being with all my children. Two of my children are based abroad, and they couldn't fly back for the usual summer period when we're all together. Uh, the other thing also is, I don't get to see my parents as often, and for a very close family, not being able to see them frequently or even touch them, hug them, kiss them. And they're in their 80s, so they need a lot of tender loving care, and that's a hard part for me. But considering the impact this pandemic has had, when I talk to my my ikapihan, my employees, a lot of their relatives have lost their jobs. A lot of their relatives have fallen sick. Some of them have even died. And so my experience in this pandemic is nothing compared to what they've gone through. So I think there's some inconvenience, but I really have nothing to complain about when I compare to these people, CJ.
For Alfamart, I would think the way Alfamart is described, you did well during the pandemic because it's an essential.
Yes, I remind that to our people, how fortunate we are that we belong to an essential industry. So many companies have closed down this year. So many people have been laid off. And the reason why we're still around is not because we're better than these companies. And the reason why my employees are still here is not because they are better than the employees that have been laid off. We are simply blessed that we have, a business that involves selling essentials, and so that keeps our people grounded. We're here not because we're good. we're here because we're needed.
Right. So let's talk about being blessed. You have two principals. You have your foreign principals, which is the Indonesian owner of Alfamart, and the other Philippine partner, which is SM Retail, which is TSC and her siblings. So how do
Correct.
you balance these two principals? And you've been working abroad for a long time, so you're used to principals.
Correct.
Please
Correct.
share.
I actually was pretty worried at the start. It is a relationship of two equals. It's roughly uh, it's not a relationship where there's a dominant partner. They
Right.
both have equal say in this business, right? And they're both equally successful. Alfamart in Indonesia is one of the biggest retail chains, and SM here is a huge success as well. So I was initially quite worried about how to manage the conflicts. But to my great relief, CJ, I'm not kidding. This is probably as close to a perfect a working relationship as you can get. I've been here more than 4 years, and I've never had to manage a single conflict. They both respect the other side. They trust the other side, and we do get together around every 4 months before the pandemic, and we'll have the board and both sides will be present, and we talk about expansion plans and all that, and conversations will be done in less than 30 minutes, and then we're off to enjoying our dinner. It's such a breeze, CJ. A good example actually is the assortment of Alphamart in the Philippines. uh, One of our fast-selling categories would be our frozen items, the frozen chickens, the beef, the pork, and all these other frozen produce. We don't have that in Indonesia. In Indonesia, the
Oh,
typical
okay.
Alfamart would not carry these items. But when Alfamart was launched here in the Philippines, Mr. Herbert C. Suggested and insisted that we develop the capability uh, to do this because this is what the communities really need. And it also gives us an important point of differentiation versus the other formats. And there was, an immediate concurrence from the other side. So, there are some chains where the franchisor has a do not change policy and the franchisee cannot change it. That's certainly not the case here, where Alphabet in the Philippines, we do incorporate a lot of things that's proven successful with SM, even if we don't do it in Alphabet in Indonesia. So it's such a great blessing of a relationship to help manage.
That seems to be a professional manager's dream, to be
Correct.
given the latitude, the independence, the creativity. Am I right? That's what I'm picking
That's so right, CJ. I'd be looking very old by now if that wasn't.
up. On that note, since we're talking about what's to be bought in Alphamart, what are your personal favorites in Alphamart you'd like to tell our listeners and our viewers?
Well, of course, since
Buy in
it's
Alphamart.
part of the SM food market, so we also have Turon,
Oh, the Turon. Okay.
and for such a cheap price of 20 pesos, so
Yes.
big with the langkai and all that stuff.
Correct. Correct.
I love it. I can't finish it though; it's too big for me, but
Okay.
it's one of my favorites. Well, of course, I go there to buy my beer before I go home.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, as I mentioned, the produce. We have everything, all the meats, like the chicken, pork, and beef. We even have fish heads. We have a cream dory. We have squid rings. We have so much assortment right now on our frozen produce. So much so that our customers refer to us as the extension of their pantry. A lot of our customers
Nice.
they don't have a big refrigerator at home,
Right. Right.
and so they some of them go to Alfamart every day. They just buy, they go cook, right? And the other thing that I like about Alfamart, sorry to depart from your question, now that you mentioned it,
Sure.
uh, the other thing that they like, I once went to an Alfamart and I saw this rather old lady, and I asked her, Mrs., madalas pa kayo dito? And she says, yes. And I asked her why. And she gave me an interesting answer. She said, kasi kung pupunta ako sa supermarket, kailangan ko pa mag-ayos. And
Oh, okay.
oh, CJ, she was wearing duster and chinelas. And so that's the image we've created for Alfamart. We become so much part of the community of the neighborhood. People just walk in their shorts, in their sando, in their chinelas. They're so much at home. They even know the people who work in our stores. No?
Correct.
And so that's the thing I love most about the Alfamart experience.
Okay, last three questions. All right. Given the pandemic, who do you think will survive? What are the key traits of retailers or even people who will survive this pandemic from your point of view?
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a rather broad answer. Uh, I'm not an economist, so I'm not sure which sector industry will thrive. I think anything to do with food, of course, and energy and power and all that will thrive. But I think in terms of the characteristics of a company, uh, way back in 1995, I attended a training called High Performing Organization, HPO.
Okay.
And in that training, I learned that an HPO company excels in four areas. And those areas are leadership, strategy, systems, and culture. So I think to survive in this pandemic and to thrive in the new normal, I think it's the same thing. Companies with a strong leadership, not leader, but leadership. And that's not just about the CEO or the president, but a company of leaders where people are empowered to make decisions. Companies with clear strategies, they know where to allocate their resources, they know where to play and where they not to play. Companies who have invested in building their systems, no, the infrastructure with the right mix of processes and policies in place. And last but not the least, companies with a strong culture, as I mentioned. I think companies who have a healthy culture where employees are engaged and act as if they are co-owners of the business. So these four elements, I think, are all needed for a company to survive this pandemic and thrive in the new normal.
Very relevant. Now, we are about to end 2020. So what's your outlook for 2021?
I I don't
Crystal
want
ball.
to
This is my crystal
I
ball question.
I don't want to jinx it, CJ, but I'm actually bullish about 2021. I think the I think the worst is behind us. I hate to say that, but I think the worst is behind us. The UK started their vaccination this week, and I think we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think eventually there will be that will lead to a stronger consumer confidence. We see the new COVID cases going down, so more people are going out. Hopefully, they won't get sick, and eventually, business confidence will come back. So I think I'm cautiously optimistic about 2021, CJ.
Okay, my last question. All of these things happening to us, how do you survive stress? How do you cope with stress?
Wow, that's a very interesting question, CJ. I you know I think about my predicament, and I think about it in the context of the people who've lost everything this year. When COVID struck us, and I told my management team this year, there are only two important metrics for me. Number one, protect the bottom line so that we won't have to retrench a single person. And we haven't, CJ. We haven't
Wow.
retrenched a single person. And number two, really follow the COVID policies so that we don't lose a single person. We don't lose a single life and to COVID. And we haven't. So I think, if it's not related to the bottom line leading to people who get retrenched, or so long as it doesn't relate to people's health, that's someone dies, then everything else is going to be manageable. And I think so long as we escape this year with those two intact, then we can manage those next year.
So
That
your
simple.
stress buster is
The
your
stress
stress buster is
the stress buster.
yes.
That's kind of hard, CJ. There is none. I think it's really just thinking about life in general and being really grateful for what you have, and everything else. It's not as stressful as you might think it is, right?
All right.
I think, yeah. But I think though, when I look back at the 2020, and I know, CJ, that a lot of your listeners are the young people. I do have a message for them, and
Yes,
if I
please.
may close on the
Please.
on the on that note. Uh, Remember, CJ, in 1984 and 1985, there were 2 years. The Philippine economy went down 2 straight years by 7.3%.
I remember.
So we've had, tough times in 2008, 1998, but in the history of the Philippines, 1984, 1985, those 2 years were really, really tough. And so I would like to remind the young people that we've been there. I don't see the old people panicking. For the young people, this is something new because they've grown up in a period of hyper growth for the Philippines, right? But I think us more senior people, we're not panicking. We've been through this. In 1985, most of my classmates, a lot of my classmates started migrating abroad. My father lost his job because the company he was working for closed down, and we thought we would never recover. We thought it was hopeless. The future was bleak. But things turn around, and the reason for this is the Filipino is resilient, right? And that's why we're going to survive. We are resilient. We are survivors. But my message for the next generation is don't stop there. Raise the bar. Remember, a survivor and a winner are two different things, right? So a survivor's mentality is good, but what is better is to have a winner's mentality. I would like the young people to not just adjust to the new normal, but to create a better normal for the Philippines. That is my challenge to them. I think our generation we've done our best, and now really the hope is on for the new generation to create a better future for us, even better than what the Philippines was before this pandemic started. That's my hope. That's my challenge.
Thank you so much, Harvey. Thank you for joining us today. It has been a very insightful and heartful conversation. I mean, it's really from here. Kurot
Thank
talaga sa
you.
puso. And I hope to see you one of these days and we can catch up
I
and
look forward
reminisce
to
about our fun days in Metro Retail. All
likewise.
righty. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for Let's Talk Retail, the digital initiative of the Philippine Retailers Association. We thank Harvey again for joining us, and we hope to see you again in our next episode. And for now, stay safe, everyone. Stay safe.